Hey everyone, this is Melly G. This is like my take 3 because the wind has been horrible and somebody keeps shooting a gun. Then we got a little rain. So I'm going to try this one more time. Hopefully I can get through this video. But I'm making this video to answer some comments and questions on my other videos. And I just want to kind of take a minute and reiterate, this is just how I do things. These are my techniques. You do not have to do everything the same way I do. I have learned trial by error. Last year was the first time I actually had a pool myself and took care of it myself. And so everything that I've learned has been just things I've learned on my own. I could not find a whole lot of videos out there showing me the techniques that I've learned. I've saw a few things that worked, that didn't work, but for the most part, I just wanted to put videos out for others that were like me that may have needed a little extra help, and maybe you could learn from my mistakes and try a different technique. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then feel free to let me know what works best for you. I did have a comment on one of my videos that my video was a waste of time, a waste of their time. And that's fine if you don't like my videos or if you feel it's a waste of time. You don't have to watch it. I mean, I guess some people feel the need to tell me negative comments instead of keeping them to themselves. If you just move on, I mean, that's okay with me. But these videos are to help others who want the help, and hopefully I can save them some time and money. But if you don't like them, then that's fine. Just move on to the next person's video. I don't really know what else to say about that. So one of the big questions I get is, where did I get this vacuum attachment for the Summer Waves pool? Well, last year when I got my pool, it was right after the pandemic hit, and I was lucky enough to get the pool because they were really out of stock constantly. I put a alert on my phone from Walmart to let me know when one came in stock, and I did that for many areas. And so I had just happened to be in town, got the alert. They had just pulled it off the truck, so I was able to get my pool, but I had a hard time finding attachments, and this was one of them. And so most of the summer I went without this attachment for vacuuming. I used the water hose technique because the other vacuums that you didn't need the pump for just didn't work for me. The mesh bag didn't work very well because the dirt would come out of the mesh bag. The mesh bag's more for leaves, things like that, larger particles. So I ended up paying like $30 for this. Now you can get them for anywhere from $10 to $15. I'll link in my description the actual links to where you can purchase them on Amazon, Walmart, and Summer Backyard. But that is where I get this actual attachment. Another question was, how do I get it to work? How do I get this to work with vacuuming? So the first thing you're going to do is have to take this off. This just goes into the pool tank, or on the side, the intake hole. So it's just the little flapper thing. It's the technical word for it. The proper word for it is weir, W-E-I-R. But just push in one side, comes off, take that completely off. You're going to need to have your pump running. Everything else stays in there just the same. You need your skimmer basket in there. That's going to hold the big pieces. Your filter cartridge is going to filter the dirt and junk, whatever you have that gets through the skimmer basket before it goes through the outtake. This just fits in here really snug. When you have your pump on, it's going to suction it down. You're not going to want to, don't plug this. Don't put the plug in this because, and that was something else someone had asked, do we plug that? No, don't plug that, because when your pump's on, it's pulling the water, just like when it's working regularly, it's pulling the water through here. It's going to pull the water through here, and it's going to clean it, filter it, comes through the outtake. Somebody asked, how do you keep the dirt and stuff from coming through the outtake that you vacuumed? Well, if you have, I'm going to take this out because I don't have my pump on, so it's not going to hold it. If you have a super dirty cartridge, you're going to need to put a clean one in there. I just cleaned my pool yesterday, so I know my cartridge is not super dirty. So I'm just going to use that same one. When I get finished vacuuming, I'm going to clean all this out. I'm going to take this out, clean my stuff out. I'm going to clean this cartridge really good, set it aside, and I'm going to put another one in there. I've been rotating, so I have another clean one. And that one's going to go in there while this other one's getting clean and dry for the next time. If your pool is super dirty and you feel like you still have stuff coming out of here, something that I have done before is put a sock, and I do this sometimes if it's super dirty, especially after we mow. I just have an old white sock that I put over the outtake. I use a rubber band, tie it on there really tightly, snug to hold, or you can use a zip tie. And what that does is when you're vacuuming, the water is going to come out of the sock, and the sock is just going to be an extra filter for you for any excess dirt particles. I've used the mesh bags or tried to, but you know, dirt is very thin particles and it can come out of the holes of the mesh bag. So the sock technique has worked for me in the past, and I still continue to use it if needed. If you have a better technique, great, but this is what worked for me. And so another question was, what all do I need to use when vacuuming? Well, I use of course, my attachment. You're going to need your pole, and I'll use the same pole for my net and for my vacuum. If I'm vacuuming on the outside, it works really well because it extends very long, and I got that at Lowe's, so you can get it at Lowe's. You're going to need a vacuum head. I've got a couple of these, both purchased at Lowe's, like them the best. And then a hose. You can get a hose anywhere. This one actually came from Target, so but like I said, you can purchase a hose from anywhere. If you already have one, just make sure it fits your vacuum head attachment. So I just turned my pump back on. Going to put the attachment in there. So see how it just holds it right in there. And then I'm going to take the other end and just bleed it. Now, I pull the pole up just a little bit so it's not blowing on the dirt on there, because then we're just stirring it up. But as you can see, I'm just bleeding the hose, getting all the air out of the hose. You don't want air going through your pump to mess up your motor. So now that I've got all that out, this is hard to do with one hand. So don't pull this out of the water, you're just going to come over here and attach it. Make sure it's on there pretty snug. My hose will get tangled up sometimes because, you know, it's just used to being curled up, because when I take it out, I roll it up, I put it up. But that's all you have to do to get it ready and get it started. And then I just vacuum. I'm gonna vacuum this whole entire pool. I'm gonna go around, get all the dirt. Sometimes, you know, if the dirt is really stuck on there, because what happens to dirt when it gets in the water? It turns into mud and it will stick. So sometimes I have to go over it a couple of times, but I'm just gonna go around my pool and clean it real good. And go slow, kind of like when you're vacuuming your house. Don't run over it super quick. It's not gonna pull up the nastiness. So I finished vacuuming my pool. Went around the whole entire pool, even the middle, because I have my super long pole here. I think it goes 12 feet, if I'm not mistaken. Because I'm on the outside vacuuming, I like to use the longer pole, but I just use the same pole each time I vacuum. Skimming with my net. I see bugs flying in my pool already. But I didn't do anything else. I just went around and vacuumed so I could show you guys step by step. My pump is still on. There's nothing plugged yet, so that's still open. Everything's still going. Your next step is going to be unplug your hose from your vacuum attachment. And then I like to go ahead and pull my stuff out of the water. Okay, so I've pulled my pole, my hose, my vacuum head out of the water. I've not done anything else. Pump is still on. Nothing is plugged. We're going to keep the pump on for a minute. Sometimes I will go ahead and skim around if I've got some floaty bugs coming across, because I do live in the country and today is super windy, so I'm gonna have things floating in the pool as I'm cleaning it. But it's pretty clean for the most part. I do have a video about the tools and the different chemicals I use and how I use them, when I use them. So I will link that in this video as well. So if you guys have additional questions about how I keep my water nice and clean, and I just checked my pH balance and all my levels yesterday or last night. Everything's really good. It's only about, we got a little cool front, so it's in the 80s right now, but my water's not super cold because it's been so hot lately. Everything's, you know, I still got water coming out of here. It's clean. But I know when I turn my pump off and I pull out the filter and the skimmer basket, that it's going to be dirty. So I'm going to show you guys what I do from there. This is step by step. If Farmer Dan was here today, he could turn my pump off for me while I'm over here, and I won't have to rush and do it. But you don't have to unplug your pump. I've heard it's not good to constantly unplug it. I do unplug mine if we've got a really bad storm, because I just don't want to have any kind of electrical issues. So if it's a really bad storm, I'll unplug it, even though my extension cord and the actual plug outlet is underneath my deck and my awning. but I still, you know, sometimes we get super bad storms and it's raining really bad, so I will unplug it and I'll plug it from the actual outlet so it has no electricity running through it. But for the most part, it stays plugged in, and we just use the top reset button to turn it on, the bottom test, which is yellow, to turn it off. So that's what I'm gonna do. And come over here. And in one of my previous videos, I showed you guys I keep all my tools in a bucket. My chemicals don't go in that bucket, but all my tools, my accessories, my extra things, like I have an extra Walmart pole in there, have some extra nets, which this was my favorite net and it broke. I got it at Lowe's, but it broke, and because it's plastic. But I'm keeping it because I can use it as a handheld, and I ended up purchasing another one at Lowe's with the metal so that it holds up better. I have a leaf skimmer attachment. It's actually still in the box over there that I got from, I actually just purchased it online, but it I don't have the hose that will attach on one of the ends. My hose is not big enough for it, so I would have to get a different attachment or an adjuster type thing that will help me with that. I have a extra hose in here. It's really long. It's not that great because, as you can see, one end has come off of it. I have an extra, so the hose I have was that I use every day is a little bit more expensive, but it works better for me, and so that's the one I use all the time. But I'm still keeping this one, even though it's a piece of crap. I'm keeping it just in case. You never know if you need an extra, if you get in a pinch, you have something. I have an extra vacuum head. This is the one I got at Lowe's, and I used it all last, I used it last year when I when I finally got the vacuum attachment for the pump. But I still use it. The one I'm using now, I just purchased not too long ago, and I like it because it feels like it weighs down a little bit more. And I said in one of my videos I got it at Lowe's, and I think I actually got it at Walmart, and it retails for like $35, but it didn't have a price tag or no tag on, or no price on the shelf. So when I went to check out and our Walmart became 100% self-checkout, the lady came over to help, and I told her, I said, I have no idea how much this vacuum head is, and there's no price tag, there's no tag on the shelf, and so at the time I had no idea how much it cost. So she asked me, she was like, well, how about $4.99? That would be $4.99. And I said, sure. So she put it in for that price, and I got home and I was thinking, I know that vacuum head costs more than $4.99. So I got on Walmart.com and I found it, and it was like $35. So I'll link that as well in my description box, because like I said, I misspoke before. I have an extra little chlorine floater that I will use for the Arm & Hammer Clearwater puck disc. You're supposed to put it in with your chlorine tablet, but I bought a new floater this year that I've been using, so I tried to do them separately. I just started going ahead and putting it in with my current floater, but it's always good to have an extra one. So I've got that. I've got some lights in there that will float in the water at night, but our bugs are awful out here, so any kind of light will draw them bugs straight into your pool. I have a couple extra nets. This was one that came with a kit. It's just so flimsy. And then I have a big like leaf net that I can use, but I haven't really needed to use it. So I'm going to turn my pump off. And then I have to kind of be quick about this because As you can tell, it's already floating up, and I don't want the water, the dirty water and dirt that's going to float up in there to get back in my pool. You really need 2 hands to do this, but you're going to plug the intake, and now you're going to plug the outtake, because you don't want any of this to flow back into your pool. And I am holding it, and I've got a few comments on that, and I'll explain why again that I have to hold it for now. I've seen other people have trouble with it, but when you're looking for something to suction and hold on to something, like this is just a little flap. It really, see, it's not going to hold. It's going to fall. Do you see that falling? It's falling. So I don't want it to fall in the bottom of my pool. See? Watch again. See? It's going to fall. It'll fall. And that has been my experience. Someone commented you don't have to hold it. It will stay on by itself. But every single time I've tried, and believe me, I've tried a lot, it falls off and it goes to the bottom of my pool. I have to get my net. I have to fish it out. So what I do is I hold it there for a minute while I'm going to drain my pump tank. So while you're holding it, pull out your vacuum attachment, which was already floated. Then you're going to go ahead and pull out your skimmer basket and your filter cartridge. So I pulled it out. It's a little dirty. That's just from overnight or yesterday. I don't leave my pump on at night. I just have a weird feeling about that. I don't like running my pump at night. I only run it during the day. Now if I put chemicals in my pool in the evening, then I will run it at night because it needs to run 24 hours. It's best to do your chemicals in the morning and let your pump run all day. I was told that it takes 24 hours for your pool to circulate 100%. I don't run my pool 24 hours. I will only if I've shocked it or put chemicals in it. So once you pull your skimmer basket and your filter cartridge out, you've got some dirty water in there, and I'm still having to hold on to this, so it's kind of hard to do while I'm filming. And of course when I'm doing it, it goes much quicker than me standing here talking. But I'm going to drain the water out of this tank. So basically I'm just going to take my bucket, just a really old bucket. You can tell it's kind of torn up, but I only use it for this. So I'm holding on to the plug here so it holds it and my water doesn't go out. And then I've got the outtake plugged in, so we're not getting any extra water in the tank here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put my bucket underneath this area, and because my pool I had to put it back up, my landscaping stuff is off, so my bucket that I put under here, I'm having to hold it with my foot until I get my landscaping done again. Because if you want to see what happened to my pool previously, when the wind blew, I showed a picture of it, blew it over my deck. So, and of course I still don't have stairs because Farmer Dan hasn't finished my deck yet. So I'm using a ladder to get in and out of the pool. You know, he helps other people, but takes him forever to get our little new chores done around here. So if you watch this, Farmer Dan, I'm on to you. Anyway, we're going to drain this out and I will show you guys what that looks like. Okay, so the water's draining out. Having to hold it with my foot. You want to make sure all the water comes out of your hose right there. The water's coming out of there. See, I don't have to hold it anymore because once the water's draining and it gets below the outtake or the intake hole, it's suctioning now. That's just how suctions work. So that works best for me. I still got my motor in there, but I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to dump this water real quick, and then I will show you guys how I clean the rest of it. Now that I have dumped out my bucket and I don't have to hold it with my foot anymore, I'm going to just twist this off, and it will tell you which way you need to twist it. If you twist it to the right, it tightens it. To the left, it loosens it. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So you're just going to twist it off. I needed both hands to twist it off. And I just kept my bucket underneath there because you do have a little bit of water that's going to be at the very bottom. So I just put my bucket, so when I twisted it off, the water went in the bucket. So there's nothing there. My plug is holding. Both plugs are in there. And I've pulled this out. My other video about the ceramic rod breaking, and when I replaced it, and I took this off, and then there's the magnetic thing that's in here, and you just pull it out. Someone asked me if you can just pull the motor out from the top. You cannot pull this whole thing out from the top because that's part of the bottom. And I will show you why you can't do that. Some people will untwist this and pull the magnetic out while it's in the tank and all still put together. I would suggest draining the water out of the tank if you're going to do that first. I tried it and with the water in there, and it didn't work for me. But to me, it's just as easy just to take the whole entire thing off. I mean, I do it when I clean anyway because I want all the dirty water to come out of the tank, and I like to clean the rim. I just use a sponge, and you can use any kind of cleaner. I've got both cleaners. The cartridge filter cleaner that I get from Lowe's is my favorite for the cartridge cleaner. I also have the filter cleaner from Clorox, and you can get that at Walmart. But I use a sponge. I just wet my sponge, spray a little bit of cleaner on it, and I clean the inside of the tank, wiping it around, spray it off with the water hose. I spray this off with the water hose, and then I put it back together. I also wanted to mention that I do not take this out every single time I vacuum. Only when it's super dirty, or maybe once a week. Just depending on how dirty my pool is when I clean it. If it has a bunch of dirt and bugs, I get those flying ants after it rains that enjoy dying in my pool, that will get in my filter. If I have a lot of leaves and stuff, it'll get stuck in there or stuck in the outtake. So you don't have to do that every single time. I did it this time just so I could show you guys. Now I've already washed out the inside of my tank. I'm going to water hose it down, and then I'm going to put my motor back on. Another question someone asked me is how I get it put back on and about leaks. So basically, when you're putting this back on, and I don't have it all the way tightened yet because I would just want to show you guys, and you have to have two hands. So when I put it back on, I just hold it from the bottom, and you want to make sure your outtake spout lines up with on both ends. And you're just going to hold the bottom underneath here to make sure it's, see, it just got off base or got off balance. So I'm going to hold it right there while I start twisting the bottom back to the right to tighten it back up. Once it's in place, then I can tighten it really good so we don't have a leak. So it's back on there. It's tightened up really good. Took me just a couple seconds. I just couldn't hold the camera and do it at the same time because I needed both my hands. One of these days I will stick a GoPro to my forehead so you guys can see it all the way through. But now all we're going to do is attach the hose back with the clamp and put everything back together. Okay, so the hose is back on. I need to dump my bucket water because skeeters like standing water. The other water around the pool and in the sand or whatever, that's going to dry pretty quickly, but I don't like leaving any kind of standing water anywhere, even in a bucket. So even my footstep cleaner that I used when I had my regular ladder out, I'll put it down here, and I don't leave it. Once we're done with the pool, after we've got in and out, whatever we're gonna do, I clean that thing out and put it up, so that, you can turn it upside down and it'll hook on the side of your ladder. But you don't want to leave standing water, especially in Texas, or you will get eat up by skeeters. So this is all going to dry because we're in Texas. The ground cracks constantly, so that's all going to dry up pretty quickly. But I don't want to leave standing water in my bucket. So I've got my stuff all hooked back up. I've got my motor back in there. I'm going to get my clean filter cartridge. And this one is not brand new. It is one that I've been using and rotating. It's newer than the one I just took out, but like I said, I just rotate them. I just tap that off. If it's got a lot of junk in there, you're going to want to maybe hose it off. I'm going to put that back in there. I'm going to go ahead and take my plugs off. Water's coming out. Once the side of my pool's dry and the pump's going, if I have a trickling leak, even if it looks like it's coming from up here, most likely it's because this is not tight enough. And even though I feel like I've put it on there super tight, I can come over here and give it a little bit of a twist and tell that it needed to be a little extra tighter. You don't want to tighten like all this up super tight where you can't get it off or it strips the grooves, but you want it to be on there, tight enough to where you don't get a leak. So if after I start everything, I'll come back over here and I'll check this, and I'll even come check it in an hour or so. The other day, I was getting a leak through this area, and I couldn't figure out why that was leaking, because everything was tight. I couldn't figure it out. Well, this just wasn't tight enough. So I just had to tighten it up. It was just a little bit needed to be twisted on there. It wasn't super loose or anything, but just the least little bit, you can get a little trickle of a leak. So now I'm going to turn my pump back on. Again, top button where it says reset, turns it on. Bottom button where it says test, turns it off. See? Off, on. And you have to press it all the way down. Don't press it lightly because it's just going to pop right back off. So we are back up and running. My little thing here's a little crooked. I'm going to straighten it up. So back up running. Put my little chlorine 1-inch tablet in there. That's what I use for inside the pool. Again, refer back to my chemicals video. We'll show you all my stuff that I use, but I always keep one in there, so when it's gone, I'll put another one in there. Put your little flapper weir back on there. That back on there. And sometimes I'll have a little ring around my floater and I'll have to clean it. So this is my floater I use. It gives me a temperature reading. Also lets me know when my If this is down, that lets me know I'm out of my chlorine puck or disc, whatever you want to call it. I use 3" in here. If this is down, it lets me know it's gone. The Armor Hammer clear pool that I use to keep the pool clean, it helps with pH balance, things like that. I've been just putting it on top of my chlorine tablet. It disintegrates super fast, way faster than the chlorine does, but it will disintegrate super fast. So put everything back in there, up and running. Somebody wants to get in, they can get in. I'll skim back over because I can see the little bitty bugs floating around. Bitty little gnat bugs. They look bigger on the camera than what they are. They're really super small. So the next thing I do is I will clean this one off with the water hose real good, rinse all the dirtiness out, spray it with my filter cleaner, let it sit for about 10 minutes, come back and rinse it off again, set it aside where it can't get, you know, I leave it underneath my porch. Really, it's underneath my chair, but where a bunch of dirt or bugs can't get into it, but it's also able to dry. So to clean the dirt off the filter, I like to use the angle setting. And I'm just going to clean it off real good. I'll open up those little flaps. I'm going to get all the big stuff out as much as I can. And you're not going to get all the dirt out at first, which is fine, because that cleaner is really going to help. I'm going to get a lot of that big stuff out for the most part. And if you're prissy and you don't want to get wet, this is not a job for you because you're going to get wet. Hire a pool cleaner if you don't want to get wet. Okay, still dirty. Still dirty. It's not super clean, but I've got all the big particles out. So I'm gonna get my spray and I'm gonna spray it. So now I'm using this pool cleaner spray. I've got the camera on my deck. Hopefully you guys are seeing what I'm doing. But I'm just gonna spray it real good all the way in there. All the way around. Spray it real good. Got it sprayed pretty good now. It's dripping. So now that I've sprayed it real good, just gonna set it aside for about 10 minutes. I'm gonna move it actually from here because it's gonna blow off with the wind. But I'm just gonna let it set aside for 10 minutes. I'm gonna put all my stuff up and skim out my pool while I'm letting that sit. So while I'm waiting on the filter cartridge with the cleaner on it, I figure I will show you guys how to drain your pool or use the water hose as a vacuum. I'm working on an invention, a DIY of how to use the hose to vacuum with your vacuum head and your pole to get that attachment to work so that you can use it just like if you were going to use a hose. But in the meantime, this is how I would vacuum my pool whenever I did not have the attachment. So basically, while it's still on the spout, turn it on, water's going to come out. Okay, so while the water is coming out, and if you're like me, sometimes I get grass on my hose, so I'll have to clean my hose off, or it's going to get in my pool. The hose is in the pool, so water's coming out right now into the pool. We're just going to come over here while the water is still on and plugged up. Oops, sorry guys. So still plugged up, still turned on. This is gonna be crazy. Water's coming out of there. Go ahead and turn it off. So look guys, water is coming out of my hose. Of course I would have this all undone, but it's draining, and I usually take it way out into my field, pull my hose completely out so that it's not curled up, and it's draining. So it's draining the water out of my pool. If I need to drain water out of my pool, if it rains too much and it's overflowing, or it's going to get too much in my tank because you don't want that to overflow, I'll drain it. But what's going on, and if I use this as a vacuum, I'm going to be in the pool because it's too hard to do outside the pool. But this is suctioning, so there's a piece of dirt still down at the bottom. Watch, I'm going to suction it up. Oh, it's up. I also like to use this to go around the perimeter of the pool because underneath that flap it can get dirty. So I mean, I don't have time to do it today, but just use this little hose as your suction. There's a piece of dirt right there. It's gone. So it's coming out of the hose. So when you're in there, you know, it's not the easiest task, and it takes a little while, but honestly, that is the best suction you're ever going to get right there is with this water hose. And ours is a little bit bigger than the normal, but still, you don't want to pick up leaves and stuff with it, so pick up all the big particles. But for dirt, if you want to be sure to get every piece of dirt out of your pool, you can use this water hose technique. Again, I've only done it inside the pool because it's hard to control it, and you have to, oh, something just come out of it. It just went back in. So, yeah, it's hard to do on the outside, but you get the picture. It suctions. It's super suctioning really good. A lot of people are, you know, try to use the outtake to flood it, to get it to suction. But after several times, even using my regular hose that I use for vacuuming, some people are like, yeah, just stick it in the water and pull it out and it'll start pulling the water out. I just couldn't get it to do that. So while it was turned on, just untwist it. The water's going to come flying out at you. That's okay as soon as that gets out, because it's like a reverse type of a suction for you. So once it's on, it's pushing all the water out, but once you turn it off or pull it out of, or unplug it from the water hose outtake, then it creates a suction. And so then you just pull it out and put your stuff back together. But that is how I drain it. Again, it wouldn't be curled up. I was going to try to show you this really quickly, and I wasn't really trying to drain my pool or use it as a vacuum today, but I would pull the water hose out completely in a straight line. I usually take it out toward the pond area so that I don't have, especially if I'm draining it, so I don't have a big mess out here. And when we mow, that way it's not muddy, or you know, somebody doesn't have an issue with the lawnmower. But that is if you cannot get that attachment. And then also, like I said, I like to use it to go around the perimeter underneath that flap, because little dirt particles get stuck underneath there and the vacuum head cannot pull it out. So maybe sometime this summer I will have my invention taken care of to show you guys how you can actually use your vacuum head and your pole with the water hose, and then you wouldn't even need an attachment. Of course, while you're doing that, you're gonna lose water, and that's okay, because you can just put more water back in there. It sounds like a waste. I know it's a waste, but if you don't have any other way, like me, that was the best way. And you're not losing tons of water, but you will be losing some water. And that's how I used it for the most part last summer. That's how I did it. And it took me a little while to do it, and I turned the pump off so there's nothing flowing, nothing going in the pool, no circulation, so everything's really still. And of course you don't want to be making a bunch of racket in the pool. You don't want any kids or anybody in there with you while you're doing it. You want to be as calm, as still as you can be, to not stir up the dirt. But that is a sure way to get all the dirt out without it going back into the pool if you have a lot of dirt at the bottom of your pool. That is 100% the sure way. Also, if you have a lot of algae, if you're having a hard time getting the algae cleaned up from the bottom of the pool, this is a sure way to get it completely out. Okay, so I plugged in my water hose, plugged it back in. I turned it on to get any air out of it, any dirt that's in it, before I put my attachment back on there. And it's time to rinse off the filter. But I want to say, before anybody comes at me about wasting water, save it. I pay for my own water, so a lot of other people waste it a lot more than I do, and I don't do that all the time, but when you're in a pinch, it works. Okay guys, so I realized after I rinsed off my cartridge that I did not hit record, so I didn't get to show you guys while I was rinsing it off. But I just did it the exact same way as I did before when I first cleaned it the first time around, before I sprayed the cleaner on there. But I just, spray it off real good, get in the flaps, anything that's in there, just spray it off real good. The reason I use the cartridge cleaner is because for me it helps get any of the small particles out. Also, it's supposed to help make your cartridge last longer, help your pump work better. I like it because it makes these little things last longer, and it's only like, the one I use is only like $10 at Lowe's, I believe. It's only $10. I'll look it up. Maybe it's $14.99, something like that. But it will last you a while. When I sprayed before, I sprayed a little too much on it because I got a little carried away. But either way, that's how I do it to make these little bad boys last longer. And I use them and just rotate them. You could probably get these to last all summer just using two, doing this. So and now I'll just put it up underneath my deck, away from anything that can get on it, dirt, bugs. But you do want to get it dry. Use it dry. Whenever you replace the other one, you don't want to put a wet one back in there. You want it dry to work properly. I guess you could put it in there wet. I don't know really how it would harm it. I just heard that it's best to make sure that they're dry. You know, some people don't use the cleaner, and you don't have to. Some people just rinse it off with the water hose, but like I said, it works better for me. That's what I like to do. If you can't afford cleaner, you can do some bleach water. That's just like chlorine water, and you can spray it down with bleach water. Or if it's super dirty, you can get you a little bucket pail, fill it with bleach water, and let it soak in there. And then after a little while of soaking, you can just rinse it off real good with the water hose, and that should work out for you. Again, guys, I really enjoy your comments and your questions, and I do not mind making another video. I try to get to everybody's comments and questions as soon as I can. Actually, it took me a little longer this time around because I had not had any, and then I checked my YouTube and I had tons of questions and comments, and I felt so bad that I didn't get to them quickly. So I'm gonna do better. I'll also link my email address in the description, so if you want to email me personally and ask me questions, you can. If I get a lot of questions, I may just do another video to answer those questions. But again, if you don't like my videos, or you have a bad comment, feel free to just move along. You don't have to watch my videos, and I'm sorry if you feel they're a waste of time, but these are the things that have worked for me, and I believe they are helpful for other people. And so yeah, that's what I do. And I actually turned my pump off just for a little bit so that I could talk to you guys, and I didn't want it to be super loud. See, I've already got little bugs floating in my pool. I'm a little OCD about bugs floating in my pool, even though I know my skimmer will probably get them. If I'm out here looking at it and I see things floating, I'm gonna grab it. But nice clear water. Sunny out now, starting to get warm. I think I might put my suit on and get in here after lunch. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and until next time, be kind to each other. Bye, y'all.